Hello, in this video I want to talk about how it all started and the trauma bonds that hold you in place and make it really difficult for you not to move on. The cycle of abuse is a really good place to start and look at how the bonding was formed. Hello, my name's Elizabeth Goddard and welcome to the Divorce Sanctuary. I'm author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse, and I work with women and men healing from emotionally abusive relationships. On this channel, I'll talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing emotionally as well as physically from the abuser. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. So the cycle of abuse is possibly a good place to start to understand some of this. You might be in the throes of confusion, either at the end or nearly at the end of an emotionally abusive or toxic relationship. Perhaps this happened to you years ago and you still haven't recovered from it, dragging this emotional trauma from relationship to relationship. Why are these relationships so hard to heal from? The damage caused puts you in a state of confusion. You had no idea the abuse was taking place. It's just like Chinese water torture. It happened very, very slowly and it turned you insane. Believe me when I say I understand what you have experienced. It is horrific. Each story is different, but the pattern is the same. Idealization, devaluation, and discard, and this cycle can go on for years. The longer it goes on, the more enmeshed you become, the invisible chains trapping you. It causes so much damage. Long-term contact with toxic or emotionally abusive people causes damage to the hippocampus. This area is used for learning and memory. And the stress caused by an emotionally abusive relationship triggers the hormones cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline, which causes the hippocampus to shrink. And when you're in or recovering from an abusive or toxic relationship, the way that you're feeling could be due to the chemicals that are raging around your body. Think of a teenager who can't communicate and their emotions are everywhere. You're not quite sure when they open their mouths who you're going to get. To the abuser, it is also an addiction as well as a game. They get addicted to the desire and the admiration that they get. They get addicted to the chase and the attention. They listen to everything that you say at the start, creating a character that they think that you're looking for in a life partner. They see your response to their attention and they want that to last forever. Attachment is a dominant factor in long-term relationships, so lust and attraction are mainly found in romantic entanglements. The attachment is needed to bond friendships. It is needed for the parent-infant bonding. In any relationship where trust is needed, the more affection they showed you, the more you showed them. But they weren't providing the attention to connect with you. They do that to protect themselves and their wounds, and sometimes from their wounds. They see you, they listen to you, they acknowledge all of you, and you may have shared more information than you actually wanted to. But there's this feeling of familiarity about this person. For the abuser, the attention they received from you and the attention they received from being with you was the distraction they needed. They create a new persona built exactly for you from the information provided by you. And this is another distraction from themselves, who they don't like. The reason they move on so quickly is that there is no real connection. Their main goal is to protect themselves from who they really are. Another reason they can't take responsibility for their actions. Although it appears that someone else is stepping into your shoes, what is really happening is they have learnt this works for them. They may have to tweak it with somebody new, but the formula is the same and they want to feel safe. It takes a lot to maintain this relationship with them. They need a lot of attention, and the scales start to tip from an equal balance to them requiring more and more. It takes a lot of finances to maintain this relationship, as you find out they demand more and more. And it takes a lot of attention to detail to maintain this relationship, as they create scenarios and manufacture emotions that you may never have experienced before. You might sense the threat of someone new who is showing them attention. It could be just a made-up person, but your confused mind now can't detangle the truth. The abuser sees you as an object, and if it is perceived that your attention is waning, they either go looking for it somewhere else, or they create scenarios or people to gain more attention. Dopamine is a hormone responsible for the brain's reward center. And the same regions that light up when we are attracted to someone light up when a person takes cocaine. And the same brain regions also light up when we become addicted to material goods, as when we become emotionally dependent on our partners. So you might hear people describe the emotions at the end of an emotionally abusive relationship are like being an addict going through withdrawal. Too much dopamine in a relationship can underlie unhealthy emotional dependence on our partners. And it's the same for oxytocin. They say too much of a good thing can actually be bad for you. And in this case, it is true. Oxytocin works as a bonding hormone, reinforcing the positive feelings that we feel towards people we love, reminding us why we like these people and increasing our affection towards them. But this was manufactured. It's a manufactured relationship. The bonding that took place was different from a normal, healthy relationship. And because of this, it moved too quickly through the stages of lust and attraction. And you may have seen the red flags, but you were giddy with these chemical rushes. Researchers discovered that oxytocin is actually two-faced and responsible for strengthening a stressful situation, experiencing triggers of fear and anxiety. In the beginning of the relationship, the emotional abuser listened and mirrored what was important to you. They then repeated everything back as if these were their own ideas, their hopes and dreams. They put on a mask and played the character that they believed you were looking for, and they did this superbly. And this is actually a really sad story for everyone, but it doesn't make their behaviour right or excusable. It's really sad for the damage that they did to you and your friends and family. Sad for them. They're so empty inside, and they are trying to fill the void by pretending to be someone else. Their behaviour is despicable. What they do and how they treat people is dishonourable. However, could you imagine being that hollow? Perhaps you can. Maybe this is what you're feeling at the moment. Empty and lonely, despising every part of your being. It feels awful. I know, I've been there. But the good news is you can heal and move on. They won't. This was never their fault. Something stops the abuser from taking responsibility for their actions. They will just move on to the next person, taking what they've learned from you and more honed and refined techniques. During the initial stages of your relationship, they began not only to take over your life, but also your future. They created a bond that later became so hard for you to let go of. You listened to their stories. You were told that no one else has ever understood them as you do. They compared you to their exes, and you wanted to do more and more for them to show how much you cared. Perhaps you have never experienced this much attention before, or had anyone so interested in you or what you had to say. During this time, you were also told the stories of why their relationships didn't last. And on some level, you vowed to yourself that you weren't going to make that mistake. They targeted you. They knew you would do anything to help them. They did their research and they tested your behaviour to see how far you would go, how much of yourself you're prepared to give up. And because of this, you didn't question what the common denominator in their relationships is. Perhaps they repeatedly told you, we're meant to be together, we're soulmates. They love the idea of being a romantic. They love the attention they get from it. They're creating an invisible bond. The more they talk about it, the more that you started to believe them. Think about it. You had so much in common. You were starting to map out your fake future together. They were the person of your dreams. You were beautiful. And you were the only person so far that that had really understood who they were and their needs. Of course you were soulmates. There's an ongoing rotation of destructive behaviour used to gain power and control over a person. The cycle of abuse, the idealisation, devaluation and discard. In the beginning, there was chaos. I went to write a blog post and I put that into the search bar in the beginning, thinking it would give me some information on Genesis about the creation of heaven and earth. Instead, I was reading about chaos and the gaping emptiness. And perhaps that's what you're experiencing, the chaos and the emptiness. Believe me, if you heal these wounds, it will be the best gift you will ever receive. Out of chaos comes love. A love you will never have experienced before in your life, not the manufactured love. The cycle abuse is everything. It is the beginning and it is the end. The deep pain within your soul, screaming to be heard, is guiding you to look at the wounds and advising you that now is the time to look at them and heal them. The cycle of abuse is made up of 3 elements: idealization, devaluation, discard, and each element was carried out with precision. The chaos is the destruction left at the end of the relationship. The abuser walks away without a backward glance, having secured in place their next source of supply. You might be at the point of trying to understand what happened. You might be trying to label the abuser. Your head might be swimming with all the information that's out there. Your abuser is so empty inside. Once they've sucked out your soul, they leave. You probably experienced idealization where you were the center of their world. They told you how amazing you were, showering you with gifts, meals out, days out. Over a period of time, this changed, and suddenly the things that they loved about you were turned against you. The words of idealization became criticism and put downs. They have questions as well. When you run out of energy, you're broken, or you have no money left, they want to know why you're treating them this way, what they have done to deserve this treatment, why you're accusing them of cheating. It was you who lost interest. If you hadn't, they wouldn't have cheated. This was followed by discard, temporary at first. They always came back looking for attention. You were used to this. You may have vowed to yourself that you're never going to let this happen again. You have to remember they don't like themselves, and your lack of attention leaves them alone with themselves. So they need to fill that void, and the only way they're able to do that in the past is with attention from others. I've said earlier, the reason they move on so quickly is that there's no real connection. Their main goal is to protect themselves from who they really are. Another reason they can't take responsibility for their actions. This was a game. You didn't have the rules. There were invisible chains that held you in place, and it's now time to dissolve them, to repair the damage and to find out where the original wound comes from. This is the start of a beautiful journey. I hope you found this useful. If you'd like to find out more ways of working with me, I'll put the link to my website below in the description box, as well as links to both my books, Finding Lily and the A to Z of Emotional Abuse. I've got 2 free workbooks, Turn Broken into Your Superpower and Self-Care is Vital. I'll put them below as well. I'll also put the link to the community over on Facebook, the Divorce Sanctuary, where we support each other, divorcing emotionally from the abuser. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'm sending you loads and loads and loads of love.